The First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good evening, folks, and welcome in. I'm meteorologist Ross Mumal. We just finished up our 7 o'clock newscast, and the National Weather Service had warned this very large storm. You see it right there on your screen, moving through portions of Pierce and Ware County, Clinch and Eccles as well. So there was a severe thunderstorm warning on that until 7:30. They did allow it to expire, but still one large swath and two strong batch of thunderstorms continuing to march their way off to the east-southeast here across southeast Georgia tonight. So although they are no longer, currently severe warned, they do have a history of producing at least pea to penny-sized hail and some gusty winds. They were warned for 50 to 60 miles per hour. That has since come down a bit, but nonetheless, we just want to hop on here quick, give you guys a little, look at what you're going to be dealing with, at least across southeast Georgia if you live there. And also, of course, we're going to be watching to see if these storms, kind of the tail end of them, do happen to make their way down toward Jacksonville here after sunset tonight. Likely much weaker than this, but we could see, some post-sunset showers or some at least downpours make its way into the north sides of the metro here later on this evening. So to start us off, I am just going to put a quick little track on this for us. I'm going to stop the loop. And again, this was severe warned, no longer warned, but I'm going to pretty much just bring it up around Brantley County and then bring it through Ware. And this is traveling to the east-southeast at about 15 to 20 miles per hour. So Hoboken, 737, Georgetown, 817. Folkston, this line of very strong storm is going to make it to your backyard and doorstep there by 846. And then the Brunswick area, so the I-95 corridor, we're looking closer to after sunset, right around that 9 to 9:15 time frame for some of these thunderstorms to make their way toward the 95 corridor in Glynn and Camden counties. Now, you see right there was a flash flood warning that was just issued further off to our west. So that is over the I-75 corridor just to the north of Valdosta proper. So some very, very heavy rain also coming down in some of these thunderstorms. Let's take a look at the storm core here. And I'll apologize for just a little bit of how slow it is to bounce around from one radar thing to the other. I'm working off my laptop in here. So storm core is essentially showing you two separate things. It's really the vertically integrated liquid. So it's really just showing how strong the updraft is and how much liquid is available within that entire updraft. So you can see the core of that storm right over, or just to the southeast, perhaps I should say, of the Waycross area. So the worst of it has now made its way through Waycross. This is a live look at what Waycross currently looks like out there right now. So still some very, very heavy rain, and it was a pretty ominous look as the shelf cloud began to move in at the top of our 7 o'clock newscast. The clouds were quite low, and often when you get these very moist environments, looks like maybe we had a lightning strike there. When you get into these very warm, moist environments, especially when the dew points at the surface are so high, that lifting condensation level, or essentially where those clouds begin to form at, can be quite low to the surface. So a little bit of an ominous look, but we're also watching for, the potential spin up of a tornado or something like that, or, at least a brief land spout at the very least. There was some mild circulation moving into really far western Ware County. So I'm going to scroll over here, get my little marker, show you guys. So there was a little bit of an inflow notch right there. So that's where the winds are feeding up into the storm and into the updraft itself, providing some extra lift and fuel for it. But you get that little hook on the south or southwestern side of the storm. Try to put a little mark right there. That is kind of where you often look on reflectivity for some level of rotation within the storm itself. It did look to, becoming, or was slowly becoming, outflow dominant, and this is starting to show that a little bit as well. If I take it down, we zoom out. Well, that's a little too far. There we go. So you can see right here as I draw it, right here is the outflow. So this is the gust front of the storm itself. right? So when it becomes more outflow dominant, that begins to cut off the inflow into the storm. Sometimes it can speed up the overall storm motion and can continue to let it build more quickly, either to the south or to the southeast in this case. But if I erase that quick and show you guys right here, on reflectivity, that's where that little notch was, where that little hook, and we're also still seeing a little bit of an inflow notch as well. So again, this is not severe warned, but right there in far western or northwestern Charlton County, very rural area, so that's some good news. If something did happen to spin up, it's, you know, very sparsely populated in that location. But there is just a small amount of some rotation. Let me just zoom in if I can. I don't even see any roads popping up here, but I'll draw it again so you folks can see. So right here we have the green are the inbound winds, and of course the reds are the outbound winds colliding together. So right here is where you're getting the circulation in from the east or northeast, and of course the winds here are going this direction. So that's when you start to get a little bit of that cyclonic motion and circulation, but because the outflow right here on the edge is beginning to spread a little bit further east and ahead of the storm, typically that begins to cut it off a little bit, and you're not going to have nearly as much circulation or, you know, small rotation notches right along the gust front and shelf cloud itself. So I'm going to take it back to the reflectivity here. Let me move it over so that flash flood warning gets out of the way. The flash flood warning is for the Valdosta area, not for any of us here. But this did still have a history of producing 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. Looks like the overall reflectivity and storm core values have come down just a hair. And some other good news is because it is moving at about 20 miles per hour, and if that outflow continues to surge forward, it becomes more outflow dominant, actually picks up speed and moves, you know, more quickly to the east, perhaps at 25 miles per hour. That essentially just means the storms are not going to dump nearly as much rain over the same locations, right? You know, last night, or really all afternoon yesterday and into the evening, we had those very slow-moving, meandering storms pretty much all over the First Coast, but especially over the I-10 corridor from Baker County, western Duval. San Marco had significant flooding. St. Augustine saw over 4 inches of rain, really because the storms weren't getting steered by any upper-level flow or upper-level currents. They're just kind of meandering around, sucking up as much energy and heat and moisture as they possibly could, and continue to just drop buckets and buckets of rain, and hence why many locations picked up 1 to 3 inches of rain, with, you know, some locally higher amounts like St. Augustine picking up 4. So you're still going to see some very heavy rain within these storms, but generally speaking, the overall rain totals will be lesser just because of the speed itself. Now let's see what the National Weather Service is saying here. Let me hop back over. They are talking more so during the 7 o'clock newscast, I was talking a little bit about the storm down into St. Johns County. They did put a special weather statement on this storm for 40 mile per hour winds, and I believe they have a flood advisory as well. So let me see if I can pull up my flood graph here. Let's take a look. Yep, so this is right over I believe the Hastings area. Wrong way, zooming in. There we go. Yeah, so Hastings and right along State Road 206, almost butting up to I-95. So that flood advisory is in effect from now until 9:30. This storm actually has been fairly stationary. The winds are a little bit stronger up across southeast Georgia, hence why those storms are moving. This storm down in the southern part of St. Johns County, not so much. So if you live anywhere between Hastings and Crescent Beach or Butler Beach, I'm sure you've already been seeing the rain and the strong effects from this thunderstorm. A lot of lightning still in this storm as well. But it looks like over at least the last 30 minutes, the core of that storm has also begun to come down and weaken just a hair. Let's take a look at the storm core on this storm. We'll slide it a little bit further south. So as I hover over at least Duval County and Jacksonville, clearly dry skies for the time being. We'll watch later tonight to see if some of those storms across southeast Georgia do make their way a little bit further to the south and southeast and down towards the Beltway here. But good news there for southern St. Johns County, not looking nearly as strong as it did at the top of the hour. So yes, still going to be seeing some rain, still some lightning and rumbles of thunder down there in the southern part of SJC, but generally speaking, if you live in the Hastings area or over to Crescent Beach, the storm is beginning to weaken, and by, I wouldn't say 8 o'clock, but by at least by 8:15, we'll have transitioned into more so just a light to moderate rain. So probably another 15 to 20 minutes of perhaps some heavier downpours and rain for that storm, but really it's the storms off to our northwest that are still the strongest that we are watching. I'm going to put one last track on this for you guys. If I'm able to, if I'm able to pause this quick. Just a little bit easier to draw the track when the radar's not in full motion. So, from Brandley County down through much of Ware and into Charlton. Again, this is moving to the east-southeast at about 15 to 20 miles per hour. So, see if I can just take it. I don't want to take it the whole way to Fernandina, but it looks like a decent spot. So yeah, Waynesville, this storm, is going to be on you in about the next 15 minutes or so. Folkston, 8:40. So yeah, really within about the next hour, the leading edge of these storms are going to be making their way into, that center part of Charlton County. Brunswick, similarly, as we had tracked a few moments ago, right around about 9 o'clock. So an hour and 15 minutes before at least this portion of the storms hit you. Now you'll notice there is already a line of thunderstorms in inland Camden County. So right here, these are also going to, let me redraw that quick. Sorry. Yeah, so right there, Brunswick's going to be seeing these storms here rather soon. Within probably about the next 5 to 10 minutes, some of these are going to start to work their way into the Brunswick area, St. Simons Island also, probably within about the next 15 to 20 minutes. That cluster of storms on the west side of I-95 will begin to transition to the east side of 95 and then into more coastal Glenn County. So let me just take this off one last time, turn the loop back on. I appreciate you guys all tuning in and bearing with me here a little bit as we try to track some of these thunderstorms, but since they are no longer severe warned and are beginning to move into a little bit more of a less populated area, sorry for the quick zooms there, less populated area there in south of the Waycross area, northwestern Charlton, looks like over the last several radar scans, the reflectivity has begun to drop a little bit. Still a lot of lightning in these storms, so don't be fooled. These are still some very strong thunderstorms. Wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour could be seen, so that's certainly enough to cause some tree damage or to even cause some localized or isolated power outages in some of those locations as well. But they are beginning to pick up speed a hair as they surge off to the east and southeast. So I will continue to track these here at First Coast News, but Toby, I think if you're good, I just want to do a quick little update on these. No longer severe warned, but of course, if they are, we'll be sure to either hop on here or on air if anything worse occurs, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Most of these, as they begin to move off to the east, will begin to weaken, but otherwise, stay safe out there, stay weather aware, and of course, we always appreciate you guys tuning in here at First Coast News. So again, I'm meteorologist Ross Mumal, continuing to track these storms moving across southeast Georgia. But for now, take care, folks.